These are some sick bastards, folks, and they believe in what they're doing. Do we have Paul Watson?
He's all set and ready.
Here we go. Okay, we're back live. Paul Watson joins us. He had a story today up on prisonplanet.com. Global cooling, unprecedented ice storms in Kenya. All the major governmental 10-year weather stations report record cold in the last 10 years. And if it continues, it's going to be one of the coldest decades coming up on record. The sun was the hottest it's ever been recorded in 200-plus years, with the most sunspots. And the spot's just an explosion on the sun, sending out different types of radiation at the planet and out into space. Now there are no spots for the first time ever. No spots, meaning really cold weather's coming. And it'll take a few years to get here, but, boy, we're going to be freezing our butts off. They've already shifted gears, the globalists, and they're saying it's now global cooling. Got to ban carbon dioxide. That means tax you. They're not going to really ban it. License it. A license is an authorization to do something that would be illegal. And this is their eugenics control grid, and they state it's that. To keep your energy usage down, to control you, to regulate you, to make you a third world slave. So you have to be under government control and government health care for eugenics. You think it's free health care? No, it's a eugenics hospital complex that is going to have their way with you. They're also shutting down the farms and ranches under the animal ID, premises ID. They're going for broke, the social engineers, right now. Paul Watson, thanks for coming on with us.
Good to be back, Alex.
Tell us what's going on with the weather.
Well, what's going on with the weather is the fact that there has been no global warming since 1998, and now they admit that there will be no global warming over the next 10 years. And the consequences in the rapid decrease of solar activity are beginning to be felt across the globe.
And again, we had the entire solar system for the last 25 years with probes and telescopes, liquid, hard frozen moons of Jupiter and Saturn are now liquid seas of methane and things like that. They're not H2O, unfortunately. But the point is we have volcanoes going off on Mars, ice caps shrinking by a mile a year on Mars. And what is, what do the global warming people say? They just say, nope, Saturn and Jupiter are closer to the sun than Earth. They say, nope, there are no ice caps on Mars. Of course, there are, but they know the public are dumbed down.
Well, the fact is, Alex, that according to all the polls, even though this global warming propaganda is going out at all levels on an incessant basis, people aren't buying it. The polls show that people are at best apathetic to it all, and certainly in America, the majority just aren't buying it. So the man-made global warming advocates are beginning to make more and more shrill and alarmist claims, and then coming in with more wilder solutions.
No. Let me explain how this works. I was explaining earlier how if you have one political party, it's easy to topple it. It can be pushed over. But if you have two big political parties or two supposedly different ideas leaned up against each other, that it gives the illusion of choice. They push together, and it makes them very hard to push over. Well, it's the same thing. You've got the European Union, and you've got the U.S. in this false bipolar world. It's really controlled by the same banking elite. And they would say, look at the Americans, they're for torture. Look at the Americans, they're for secret arrest. Look at the Americans, they're for attacking innocent countries. They lie about WMDs, and they're ignorant. They don't believe in global warming. And so because the Americans were wrong on all these other things, by design, well, I'm not an ignorant American. I'll go ahead and support global warming, global tax. Those greedy Americans are too wasteful and pig-like. Well, that is true. We're wasteful, pig-like SUVs. Doesn't mean we aren't wasting and doing some things that are bad and consumerist. So there's that idea in Europe. They don't see that it's about a tax and control. And so because George Bush was against it, they got behind it. As soon as Europe got behind it, Bush came out for it. And then we saw Pat Robertson go out on TV and say it's of the Lord, global tax. Jesus says do it. So again, another example how they play two sides off against each other that are really connected and run by the same group. Paul Watson, go ahead.
Yeah, precisely. And then if you speak out against man-made global warming propaganda, then you're called a tool of the oil companies. Well, go and take a look at who is actually promoting man-made global warming, and you will find that oil executives and people like British Petroleum's Peter Sutherland, the head there, are out meeting secretly and talking about pushing this false fear-mongering of global warming, and they're the ones doing it. And the end result is that, you know, the people on the left just don't look into who's pushing it, and they just think it's this neocon lie to say anything against it. But the dangerous thing now is that with the wilder claims, they're coming up with wilder solutions, which is what I wrote about on Monday. One of which is, there was an article out of The Guardian called Geoengineering, the Radical Ideas to Combat Climate Change. And now they're not just talking about this because they've been doing it, and they've been doing it.
They say, oh, we could spray the clouds. Turns out these little buggers have actually been trying to heat things up.
Yeah, they've been doing it at the U.S. Department of Energy's Savannah River National Laboratory in South Carolina, conducting tests of spraying sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere.
We need a big report about, you know, chemtrails exposed. This has been out for 6 months, Paul, still no story. I want a detailed story tomorrow, if you can do it, about how they are chemtrailing, how every major research institute in the world is involved.
Yeah, and I mean, 20 years ago, we were all being told that the big environmental danger was something called acid rain, which was caused in part by factory and industrial emissions. And, Alex, what's the main component of acid rain?
Sulfur.
Well, sulfur dioxide. And this is what they're saying they will go up and spray into the upper atmosphere.
And aluminum oxide and barium, everything the chemtrail researchers told us. I'm not kidding, folks. Thousands of U.S. universities, Canadian, British, every federal agency, and this is all declassified. They call it high-altitude aerosol spraying. What's the name of the one program? You Google it, and there's like millions of hits. And it's our planes will be up this weekend spraying, but that's secret. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Exactly, and it's being pushed by people like Nobel Prize winner Paul Crutzen, who proposed sending jumbo jets up to dump huge quantities of sulfur particles into the far reaches of the stratosphere to cool down the atmosphere.
And it turns out he did that in the late 80s, early 90s, and then he magically wins a Nobel Prize, and then the spraying starts, added to the fuel so the pilots don't know, all compartmentalized.
And what are the health effects of exposure to sulfur dioxide? Neurological effects and behavioral changes, disturbance of blood circulation, heart damage, reproductive failure, damage to immune systems, and there's a list that goes on and on.
All of their favorites, all of their faves.
Very tasty. And
but it's for the Earth, Paul. It's for the Earth. It's saving us.
Even though it causes, quote, substantial damage to the natural environment, according to the New Scientist. So this is what they want, to damage the environment to save the environment.
And the new thing is cut down all the trees because they create CO2.
Oh, yeah, trees are evil. They want to cut down beautiful, pristine, old-growth forests because as trees age, they start to take in less carbon dioxide and give it off.
Now, again, scientifically, they know from psychology, and they say this, they say outrageous things to just shock you into going, fine. Yeah, I mean, that's why they come out with this and say, yes, we torture small children. It's the American way. That's meant to just shock the conscience till you finally just go, okay, fine.
Right, which is now why the Prince Philip's World Wildlife Fund is saying that CO2 not only causes global warming, but it also causes global cooling, which is why whatever happens with the weather, and whether there's an earthquake or a hurricane, or whatever what happens with the weather, it's all related to human-caused emissions, so humans are the problem.
And again, this goes back to 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, witch doctors saying, give us control of society, give us the best huts, the best temples, the best food, the best women, or the goblin god will eat the sun. Well, the priests were just marking down when there was going to be an eclipse. They knew what it was. The general public didn't. And so now it's suddenly global cooling. And they have, at a bunch of stores in Austin, I was at a steakhouse in Denver, and it stunk because they have no flush toilets in the steakhouse. They had special parking spots for low-emission cars. Again, Japan, England, the U.S. want to have stickers on the car that you have to have showing your carbon emission, like yellow stars. I mean, this is social engineering, folks.
It is.
Tell folks, in fact, I forgot to air it. Get that together about the bin police. Mainstream news in England reporting it like it's good. Tattle on your neighbors. See what they're doing. But see, after they get you done spying over trash, then it's what is your neighbor's political views. They always start it with something innocuous on spying, and then it moves on to everything else. Do you have that clip from yesterday? John? John, are you there? John must... Okay, do you have the clip from yesterday? I want to play the rainwater clip. I may go into overdrive today. Do you have the clip about the trash can secret police?